it's important to understand what a CUSIP number is. A CUSIP number was created by the banking industry, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years ago. I'm not even sure when. And it's a number that's registered with the Security Exchange Commission. It's everything today is numbered. You know, the scriptures talk about, you know, the fall of man. One of the things that will happen is everything gets numbered. Well, everything in banking is numbered. Well, those numbers, the CUSIP number, is designed to apply to things like instruments and notes and that sort of thing. Well, when you have a document that is going to be transferred or used as security or converted to a bond, all of that sort of thing, you need to be able to catalog it and index it. Hence the concept of the CUSIP number. So that's just what the banking industry came up with. They could have called it anything they wanted. They decided to call it the CUSIP number. The CUSIP number gets applied for by somebody through some kind of banking department. It's the Association of Banking, blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of different entities involved. So you have a document that you want to sell or trade or bond or use as collateral, and you're a bank, so you just punch in the computer, blah, blah, blah. You get a number for it. Now that number can be traded. It's the same thing that Keating talks about on prisoner bonds, and other people talk about when they talk about Security Exchange Commission items for buying and selling. So we know what the CUSIP number is. If you talk to somebody that, say, sells securities or has a Series 7 license or does some kind of stock and financial trading, they're very familiar with them. What we don't know is what it wouldn't apply to, because it really wouldn't apply to anything else. But what if we're wrong on this concept? And I think now that we're wrong on it completely. So let me elaborate on that concept. Here's how it all started. It started Thursday night. I went to the Legal Research Society. It's a group that's been around for a long time, probably 20 or so years now. And it's a bunch of legal researchers that have been doing it forever. They meet once a week here in Phoenix, and they just go over stuff, all kinds of stuff. They've written excellent court cases. They helped get rid of photo radar. They're kind of the unsung heroes in different parts of this movement. And most people are not familiar with them at all. I decided to go. Well, so it was kind of nice because I hadn't seen some of the people in a while, so we all say hello and blah, blah, blah. And there's not a topic there. We go over a million things. Towards the end there, and we're kind of wrapping it up and going back to the Friendly Exchange of Belows, Terry, the guy that leads the group, and he's been leading it for years and years, and he's a good friend. So I got to tell you something about what happened, because it's just really strange, and, you know, there's something to this, and I don't know what it is. But a friend of his went down to the bank with a credit card, and he had $25,000 left on that credit card and took it as cash. The bank says, all right, here's $25,000 in cash. The guy went out and bought some stuff that he needed, probably knowing that he couldn't pay it back, and figured, you know, what are they going to do? So anyways, the bank comes after him for it. The whole thing takes, obviously, months. And he's kind of back on his feet and doesn't want to destroy his credit. But he cannot pay back the credit card. It's too much. So he gets a lawyer to fight it. Lawyer looks at the case. They go through some things. Lawyer says, whoop, there's no way to win this. You went to the bank, got the money. They can prove it. So you're going to lose. So the guy's like, well, don't want to pay a lawyer and have to pay back $25,000. Gets rid of the lawyer. And just for shits and grins, just wants to give it a try. asked them for the CUSIP number on the application. Now, not knowing that this is going to be an issue, just is trying to screw with them. Nobody really came up with the concept of the application itself is being negotiated. So he sends them that. Now, this is an actual court case, and he does his RFAs asking for the CUSIP number. The bank dismissed the case. They get the document. A couple days later, they dismiss the case. That's it. It's over with. They don't want the $25,000 back. They don't want to talk to him. They don't want anything to do with this. So he's kind of like, oh, wow. So he tells Terry, and Terry goes, I'll try it, because Terry's in a credit card case. So Terry had done a QWR to get some information from the bank, and they were non-responsive, sent him back kind of a ridiculous letter of, here's this and that, and you can't ask for this and that. And he responds by saying, listen, you were completely non-responsive. You have to give me this information. And here, I'm adding this to it. I want the CUSIP number for the application. Now, Terry's case has been going on for a couple of years and fighting back and forth with the bank over this thing. So, okay, so anyways, the next letter Terry gets back from the bank is that they can't find the application, so the case is stopped. Now, they didn't dismiss it yet, but they put a hold on his case, the case where they were suing him, and all he did was, just like his friend did, was ask for the CUSIP number for the application. Now, this was just on Thursday night that I heard this. And then I had guests all day yesterday and yesterday evening. And Thursday night when I got home, I immediately sent out an email on it. Then Friday I was just booked with doing some documents, so I haven't been able to study this. But there's something somebody's asking what a QWR is. A QWR is a qualified written request. Under Title 15, which is 15 USC Section 1692. That's 15 USC Section 1692. Talks about verification of debt. It's a very important title to be very familiar with anytime you're dealing with credit card companies or loans or anything, any type of debt-related stuff. So this seems to be a very, very big deal. Now, I'm going to continue that on no basis of knowledge. Understand, I haven't verified this. This is totally guesswork, and it's all theory. I haven't proved anything, but I'm going to discuss the theory because all of a sudden, about a million things that didn't make sense make sense. One of the things that makes sense is when you look at corporations, you look at a CEO making millions of dollars, and for some reason, the CFO, the chief financial officer, who's nothing more than a glorified accountant, he makes as much, sometimes more, than the CFO. So why is an accountant so important to a corporation? Didn't used to be that important of a position. Somebody once told me a long time ago, the reason the CFOs are so important is because they know how to actually, somebody's asking what an RFA is, request for admissions. It's in a court procedure that you send to the other party. You send them questions and you ask them to admit or deny. It's a request for admissions. All this stuff is standard legal jargon. So the importance of the CFR is certain people know certain things on how to deal with the government and the banks in a different way than your average accountant does. And that's why they're so important. They have the proper licensing and the connections to pass through documents through the government entities that most people don't know, don't understand, even accountants. And most accountants will tell you this is all bullshit, but it's not. It's very real. One of the people that I consider being fortunate to have met we didn't develop a friendship or anything. I just did some work for the guy. Was a guy named Mr. Wynn, who was the CFO for Quest, one of the largest telephone companies in the world, actually. They came from a company called US West, which came out of a diversification of Ma Bell 30 years ago. Well, he left Quest. When he retired, he got all of his pay for like a decade and $125 million cash payout, plus his several $1 million a year retirement and all the other stuff. So just when he left, he walked away with $125 million in his pocket and all the other stuff. And I was there at his actual home, which looked like a resort. The guy had a 40-car garage, and it was full. So the guy has real money. And he obviously wasn't going to tell me anything, but we talked a little bit about nothing is the way that it seems. And he was very clear that that's very true, but because of who he was and knowing the truth, he was worth this kind of money, and that's just the way it was. So they know something that makes them worth that much to a corporation. So let's continue this on. If we're right, then, Guess 18 is saying BS. BS to what? I don't know. But if we're right that applications are being used to get CUSIP numbers, that's why I looked in Black's Law. What is an instrument? What is an application? Well, if you look at the legal definition of the word instrument, which is something that can be given a CUSIP number and sold, an application actually falls within the confines of that definition. So, could they legally be allowed to put a CUSIP number on an application and sell it? Well, according to the legal definition, the answer to that, believe it or not, is yes. Well, now things start getting real scary, but they also start making some really bizarre sense. All the things that seem really stupid that businesses do now make sense. When you go to the store and they, like Kohl's, I went to Kohl's the other day, and they're like, oh, why don't you fill out this application? We'll give you 15% off. And I'm thinking, first of all, there's no way that that's financially feasible, because even if I was just a normal person and not a ghost in the system, the average person right now couldn't qualify for a credit card. The average person's credit's so bad right now, that's a total waste of time. So the 15% off, you're just losing money. I know you're going to be able to write it off because it's going to be an advertising expense, but it's really not conducive to either one of us. Well, then banks are sending out all these applications when they know most people are not going to be able to qualify for anything right now. Yet they're sending them out more than ever before. Now, if we look at it like every time that you sign an application, because an application falls within the legal guidelines of an instrument, and any instrument can receive a CUSIP number, and anything with a CUSIP number can get a bond, and any bond can be laid to rest for a loan from the government, something really bizarre is starting to make sense, something that never made sense before. So let's just continue this on in this total bizarre world where things are starting to make sense. What if a giant corporation, because the way that the Fed set up corporations, what if a corporation that has a certain amount of employees, and so they're under different guidelines, and they fall under SEC, what if that corporation was to go get its own banking license, which most of them do, which makes no sense, but all of a sudden it does start to make sense. Because what if they are taking their employment applications, stamping them as an instrument, getting them a CUSIP number, and putting them in as a bond. Well, that starts making sense.